Good evening from Sister Ruth's Farm. I guess I need to remove this if I'm going to be talking about our handy dandy rain barrel and the current system and what we're planning on doing. So in this video, it will be, a series inside of one video. The first part is me going over our current system. So currently we use this Vivor rain barrel that I got from TikTok Shop. And then we have our solar irrigation system that I've been using for a while now. And I have some prior videos explaining more about the rain barrel as well as the process for setting up our solar irrigation system. Now, I will say this, for the most part, the system has worked great for me. However, some parts of my garden are not included in the solar irrigation system. So my new flower tester bed is not included, nor is my watermelon area over there included. And then this area over here is also not included, this area is included, but those other areas are not included. And so for the most part, like I said, this system has worked great. Here is the solar panel here. It is on a schedule of, I believe, every 12 hours for like 3 minutes. There are some different settings that you can manipulate on the back, and that is explained in the other video. However, my primary concern is it hasn't worked necessarily as a rain barrel. Now, system like I wanted to. Now, yes, this area is a little bit dirty and I need to clean it off, but even when this stuff is not here, in order for this system to work effectively, of course, this has to be full. And so the concept is that the rain will come in, fill it up, and then the system, cycles through on the time schedule like it's supposed to. However, that hasn't been the case for me. I don't know if it is the size of this. I don't know if it's the fact that, I don't have it set up like some people do with the gutters and the rain spout. But in order for my system to work, I have to manually fill this with water, and then it cycles like it's supposed to. Now, as you can see, it currently has a little bit more than 23 gallons in here. And I think the last time I filled it, it was like middle ways. And so that manual work is not necessarily bad because, like I said, it has been working to help me water my garden. However, my concern is, say for instance, if I'm not here and this runs out of water, then, and say I'm going on a trip or I'm going to visit family, then it's not going to cycle like it's supposed to. And like I said, some parts of my garden are not included. Now, I could get some more tubing, add some more connections to it, and so it could work like it's, continue to work like it is. But I think because of the direction I'm trying to go in with Sister Roots, it will be more beneficial for me to do a different system. And so that is what part 2 of the video will be about. What I will be doing is showing you the new system that we will use. It's going to be connected to my outside, I believe spigot is the correct word, and then I can control it from my phone. I can also, if I need to, convert it back to, manual watering if I need to. So I like both of those options. And so that will be part 2. But part 1, I just wanted to show you or just give you an overview of the current system that we use, let you know that I will be linking everything in my bio, like the rain barrel, the current solar irrigation system, the prior video showing how we set that up, as well as the new items that we are using. Part 2 will just be an overview of what is in the box, and then part 3 will be me just setting up the actual system. So stay tuned for that, and then we will see how it goes. All right, chat soon. Okay, so this is part 2 of this video, and so basically I'm going to provide you with details on what came inside of our box for our new irrigation system. So the first thing is, and of course I opened this box prior, but I was like, hey, you need to provide details on what's included in case anyone is interested. So this was ordered, this was not included in the box, this was separately. And of course, whenever I am ordering something, I tend to go by reviews as well as people's experiences with the different products from their own videos of the products. So this more so came from reviews off of Amazon. So this is the smart water timer, and inside the box you have the instructions, this here, and then the system itself. So 3 simple things in that box. As far as this box with the new system, there are 2 different sizes of tubing in the box. And from my glimpse of the instructions, you know, they both have different purposes. As you can see, the let me go to the installation guide here. You can see the thicker tubing, and then you can see the little smaller pieces of tubing. So they both have a purpose. And then we have all of the other different supplies in here, as you can see. So for the most part, I was not overwhelmed by the pieces inside the box because it seems like it's going to be a pretty straightforward setup. Now there is some, you know, angst in regards to setting up the system because this is my first time setting it up, but I'm still excited about it. So those are all the pieces that were included inside of the box. And so part 3 of the video, I will give you some snippets of me, you know, setting everything up and what that looks like. And then of course I will give you a full tour of everything once it is in the garden. So I am so excited. So stay tuned for part 3. Okay, so this is, excuse me, part 3 of the video after I've gotten everything set up. So my goal was to do like some little videos along the way to show you how everything was set up. However, once I started with the process of setting everything up, I felt that I could just give a smaller overview of everything because trying to do little small videos of the step-by-step process would have been just too much. So the first tip I want to give in setting up my new system was that I had to plan everything out. So in doing that, the first thing I did was I placed the different emitters. So these little blue things, I placed them in the beds and where I wanted them to go. Now in the installation guide, it is set up where you have the thicker tubing connected to the hose and it is running like kind of parallel. But I knew that would not work for me in my garden. I would have to do a setup that was like a just singular loop throughout everything, and so that's what I did. But back to what I was saying, so I just went through the garden and I put the emitters where I wanted them to go. Like that one has 1, 2, 3. That one over there has 2. And so that was the first thing I did. The second thing I did, because let me go back to that thicker tubing. I did estimate that it would be enough to loop through in a singular fashion and not parallel. So that was something else I had to consider. So after I did that, I took the connectors, and when I'm referring to connectors, I'm referring to these, and I just placed them in the areas where I knew the garden beds would connect. And what I'm saying with that is like this bed and this bed, they are connected. And so I placed this connector before I did anything with the tubing. I just set it down right here. And then the next thing that I did the same thing throughout. Like this connector here, I knew it would be connected to this bed and this bed. So I just did that throughout the garden. And once that was done, like I said, everything is set up in a singular fashion for me and not parallel. You can see the thicker, this line here, which is connected to the main hose, it is just looped, or yeah, throughout. Looped may not be the right word, but it's just looped throughout the bed. And so once I put the connectors everywhere, here is another example of the connector right here. And I knew that this bed and this bed would be connected. Then once all of that was set up, then I went back in and connected the smaller actual drain lines. And that process was relatively simple once I had planned everything out. Now, something else to notice is, although, you know, I have these big connectors, which are with 4, some of the setup I had to do, they have some additional connectors in there just in case you have to connect additional ones to your main line. And so some of them had to have this connection as well. And so basically what I did is once I had mapped everything out, then you just start cutting the smaller tubing and connecting everything. And the connection is so simple. Like this is the bigger tubing here that goes to the main water line. And so basically, and I'm doing this with one hand, basically you push this tubing as far as you can in here, and then you screw this tightly and it doesn't come out. As far as this tubing here with the drain line, it's more so of a, you know, cut the length of what you need and you just plug it in and it grabs it somehow in there. And that was the basic process throughout. You just cut the smaller tubing to the length that you need. You plug it into your main connector, and then you plug it into your emitters. Like this one, see how easy that came out? And so it just pushes in there and it grabs it. Now, one thing to consider is that the different emitters have a different spray pattern. Whereas this one here has a pattern where it sprays like this, and I'll show you a video that will be the final part of the video. This one has a different pattern. So something I didn't consider, because this was my first time using it, was of course I considered, okay, with your plants and your leaves, you don't want your leaves to be ultimately wet. So for the ones that, I guess it doesn't really make a difference, but if you want to ensure that, you know, your leaves are not ultimately wet, it may be better to use this one here as opposed to this one. And that may be a little bit more understandable once I show the video of how everything looks once it is on. The only other thing I forgot to mention is you do have to have an end piece. And so this was the end piece, and then they have a little cap inside of the box. And so this is my end piece. And so the other tip I would give is to, if I haven't said it already, is to begin with the end in mind. So I knew I wanted the tubing that connects to my water source to end here. And so I just started threading it through before I connected anything. I don't think I mentioned that. Threading the big one through and behind everything as much as I could, because you want to try to keep your tubing behind and out of the way if you can. So I tried to thread it through as much as I could. And so then let me go over here. As you can see, I even put some in what's supposed to be my compost bin, but now it's my tomato bed. But looped it through, and then as you can see, this is where it ends up. Okay, and then this little connector piece is in the box as well. And so now, because I will say this, so I had enough of the bigger tubing to loop throughout my garden. However, I didn't have enough to stretch all the way to my spigot. I think that's what it is. So I'm still having to use my hose here. But the great thing is, like when we're cutting the yard or something like that, I did plug up my smart timer. So when we're cutting the yard and I want to move this out of the way, all I have to do is just unscrew this. And so everything can separate. Right now I have my timer on a Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule to run at 7 a.m. for 3 minutes and 7 p.m. for 3 minutes, because you know, I want to be mindful of whether or not it's going to run up my water bill. But that's how everything is set up. I hope that makes sense and that I was able to like give a description of everything. Again, the primary thing is to take your larger tubing and, you know, map out how you want it to go throughout your garden. Make sure you place the emitters where you want them to go in the beds. Once you do that, take your big connectors and place them primarily as close as you can between the beds that are going to share the connectors. And once you do that, you just take then it's just, you're cutting and you're plugging everything in the smaller tubing like this, and you just plug everything in. As I was saying earlier about the other quick connectors, like that's a great example there. Like this one is connected, even though, you know, this one has 4 lines. One of them lines I had to connect 2 of these 2 so that could work, and that's that small connector. Then with that line, in order for this bed here to be connected, I had to do another quick connect, as you can see there. And then even over here, I still had to do another quick connect, if that makes sense. And though that all goes to one line on this 4 connector here, okay? But like I said, it is relatively simple to set up, but first it's very important that you plan everything out. So the final video will be me showing you my smart timer and how everything looks, or I'm gonna just show you what it looks like once everything is turned on. All right, I'm so excited to show you. This was a labor of love. The primary thing was the planning, mapping out how everything would work in the garden. But once that was done, the setup was a breeze. Now I will say, in case I forget to say this, that one of my emitters did not work like it was supposed to. It was one of these. I had it over here, and because it didn't work, I had to replace with one of these, and that's ultimately fine. But I'm so excited to show you how it works. So stay tuned for that, and that will be the final video. Chat soon. Okay, so the final piece for this part is how everything looks. So as you can see, when they talk about different emitters, this is what one looks like, and this is how the other ones look. Now, something I have to consider, I may have to change a few things. This one didn't go all the way back in when I was demonstrating. I may have to change a few things because, you know, with leaves, especially your flowers or any leaves per se, you really don't want them to get wet. So I tried to put them in and be considerate of that to decrease wetness to the leaves. Now, something you can do is you can twist and adjust these. So I can actually make it smaller if I want to, or I can make it, you know, a little bit bigger. So that's one way I can, you know, manage how much water is sprayed on my leaves. Like this one is spreading out a lot, whereas this one is not so much. So I can just turn this one down a little bit. Let's see if I can turn it down. I may not be able to. I'm saying that, but it's not turning down. But let's see. Nope, that one is not turning down. So I may be wrong in that aspect of things. Let's see with this one. This one will. So I may not be turning that one right. I do need to replace this one because it's not dripping like I need it to. So it may be one of those streamer ones because that's the only other one that I have left. See? Push that back down. And then I also have these. You have these that can go like this. And so I have these currently over here with my herb garden. I haven't necessarily figured out how I want these to flow because I did, like I said, I only have one more of these left. But I have several of these and a few more of the extra little connectors. So I'm just going to have to figure out a good setup for this area. But for the most part, I just wanted to show that it works. And I am so excited. So excited. Like this one has two different types. As you can see, it has that one and it has that one too. So yeah. And then here is that end cap. I know I have said a lot in the video, but if you take anything from it, plan out everything first. Stick all your little emitters where you want them to go. Be mindful of where your main tubing needs to be. Once, after you do that, put your little connectors between the beds where they are going to connect. That's what I did. And then once you have all those main pieces in place, then that's when you use the smaller drain tubing. And as you see, I have a bunch of it left, a bunch. And like I said, I didn't follow the instructions from the guide or the example that they gave because that would not work for my garden. Right now, this is what it looks like. It's not long enough to connect to my hose that's on the outside, excuse that bucket that I have to pick up, that's on the outside of my house. So right now, this is what it looks like. This is one of the connectors that came in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hook my water timer to this for now until I can figure something else out. But for the most part, I am so happy that I can have consistent watering in all parts of my garden. So take from this video what you will. I know it was a lot in there, and if I need to do another one to just explain it just a little bit better, I am willing to do that as well. But this was a 4-part video series. It was a lot, and links to the prior videos as well as the products will be in the description. As always, thank you so much for coming with me on this journey, and I will chat with you soon. Bye.